Okay, key philosophy. And this is really key philosophy that we apply to ourselves. And I think it's an important philosophy. And again, think about this in context with doing this assessment type process. You can't change history. There's a very radical difference between the process that we try to put in place and the traditional audit process. Audit processes are rearview mirror. What happened in the past and how can I slap people on the back of the head for what happened? It's interesting, but it's not very beneficial. And it's not constructive in terms of moving you forward. You can't change history. It doesn't matter what you do now, you will not change the history. If you messed up in the past, you messed up. Get past it, move on. What's important is history establishes trends. So you look at history to find out what would happen if I carry on down this path. I think what was it, the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same things and expecting a different outcome. There's never any different outcome. So you look at history to see how much insanity has been in the history. But you've got to look at the future. This is all about success, and the only way you get people to take any notice of you through this process is to say, if you don't do this, you're not going to be successful. That usually gets our attention. So always looking forward and always looking at how you can develop success. Never why you can slap somebody for doing something wrong in the past. Never. It never works, because you'll be out that door immediately. People hate audits. Don't view it as an audit process. It's a learning, adoption, and ongoing mentoring process. If you did something wrong in the past, it's because, and let's just assume everybody had the right intents, most people do, if you did it wrong in the past, it's because you didn't know how to do it right. And so learning, mentoring is an extremely important part of this process. It's sort of interesting in a way because we get into some sorts of opportunities because we go through training. People say, I don't know how to do that, can you train me? And we move from training into assessment. Sometimes we go into assessment and say, guys, you don't know how to do this, let's do some training. So it happens both ways. But bottom line is training, mentoring, getting people so that they actually can work in this environment successfully is the key to success with it. And when the assessment team leaves, nothing changes. How many people have gone through customer satisfaction surveys in their own organisations? How many times did things actually change as a result of the customer satisfaction survey? Did you go back a year later and think, what happened to that? What changed? It's the worst thing you can ever do. You set expectations something's going to happen and nothing happens. One thing that we found out very quickly is that an assessment is an important step. You have to know what you're going to address and how you're going to address it. You have to make recommendations, but you have to make darn sure that those recommendations get actioned. And again, that's where the metrics come into play here. If you tell someone that if you don't do this, guys, you're going to lose another $1 million. And by the way, you might as well clear your desk out now. That usually gets their attention. I don't think we've actually ever used that, but it's something to keep in your back pocket. But the fact is, you can give them some metrics and say, it's going to really hurt. This is going to be bad. This bad is if you don't do this stuff. Generally, it's a call to action. And then the other part of it is that think about people who are in the middle of these programs. They're busy. They're really busy. They're so busy that they can't do anything else. Sometimes you just have to help them to do it. Sometimes you have to send target teams in to do it. Sometimes you have to actually mentor them, bring them up to speed, do some work for them, transfer it to them. At the end of the day, you have to get the people who are responsible for the outcome to do the work. You have to. You can't do it for them. But it is important to be in that mentoring role. That coaching and mentoring role is extremely important. But action has to happen. If action doesn't happen, you've lost every investment you make in this process. And it's something which, frankly, you have to start thinking about the next steps even when you're halfway through this process. So very important to think about what happens next and make sure you plan for what happens next. Don't let it lie.